and welcome back to another episode of The Grid, powered by Anorak. And today I'm joined with Jodie Anderson, our Talent Acquisition Associate Director. So obviously welcome. Obviously she's one of my colleagues. We have obviously worked together now for about 9 months, I believe, obviously you've been here. Just to give you a bit of background, obviously she studied law in the University of York. She's obviously been based here in Dubai since 2021, so just obviously after COVID. And obviously she specialises in basically helping people come over, navigating obviously complex international hiring, which is, again, we'll step into now. And again, our episode here really is to discuss, what it really is that sets people apart to actually be a real estate broker. There's a lot of recruiters out there. There's a lot of brokers out there. And I think, when you're sitting from the outside, maybe in the UK or wherever you're coming from and considering this career, there's a lot on Instagram which isn't the real actual deal. Whereas obviously you introduce them the real hard facts of it. And then obviously you've got to then navigate through a big obviously pool of talent to obviously see that actually they are a good fit for Anorak. So welcome. Where would you say is like kind of the main things now that you look for in that perfect candidate? Like what are almost the 3 key points?
3 key points. Gosh, I'm going to try and whittle it down to just words. I'd say number 1 is drive. You can kind of want something but not really be determined to get there. I think everybody wants a lot in life, but not everybody's willing to do what it takes. So
very true.
Drive. Yeah. Mindset does fall into that, but it's a little bit different because it's, I think, just an understanding of systems and almost like a process of trust. Mm-hmm. I definitely say with the amount of people in Dubai real estate, not just brokers, but recruiting, people looking to invest, there's like a huge scale of really good people and people that maybe aren't that great.
Sure.
So it's very easy to kind of get whittled down into like a negative side of the market. So you kind of have to be able to keep yourself looking at the bright side because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know as well as I.
I always say it's like the Dubai roller coaster. Like, yeah. Welcome to the Dubai roller coaster because they're going to have as many ups as they will downs. Yeah. And the downs are hard because obviously a lot of people might not know, but, it is a commission-only role when it's the sales roles here. And, we get a lot of, young people that have probably not done a great deal of experience, different professions. And I think they probably haven't even got into the aspect of actually earning a proper salary at that point. And then they're thrown into this deep end of, oh, you go out and you earn your dinner, literally.
Yeah.
And it's like a roller coaster. Previously, again, to the audience, like obviously I used to do recruitment and training. So I always say with the partnerships aspects, I now kind of train my partners to understand about obviously Dubai real estate, which then leads me on to my next question. What is it about Dubai real estate that maybe sets apart other markets globally? Like, why would you feel there's such a huge amount of people that want to come over here and do it, but B, what makes it the reason why you'd come over here?
So I think social media has a really huge part to play in that. And that kind of goes back into one of the other things I want to discuss today, but I'll jump onto it later. But basically, Dubai has gone viral. You get the whole like Habibi come to Dubai, and it is a big thing, but not everybody kind of understands like the stats that back it, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But you can literally just do like a really quick Google search. I'm not going to back this with anything, but if you Google it, you can find the stats on this. Like global markets performed, I think from 2023 to 24, which is obviously the most recent stats we have just been into 25, like round about 2%. Dubai's in like key residential areas was like 20%.
Yeah.
You just like can't even compare it. And there's so many things that go on with it that I think drive people towards it. Yes, because they want to do it. But the reason there's so much hype is because there is an awful lot of opportunity here.
Very true.
Not just for investors, but for people who are ready to kind of work hard and make money.
Well, you mentioned mindset earlier, and I've had a previous podcast episode, I was talking to one of the partners, and I was like, why is it that they've chosen to do business over here? Because then I always say when you're a broker, really you're coming over here and you're setting up your own business because you're self-employed when you're doing commission only. Mm-hmm. And his response was, it's down to mindset. And that I always agree with, because it's a really unique mindset in this city, especially because people are so entrepreneurial, you know, kind of even the leader. I mean, he pretty much says no isn't an option, and, you know, the impossible is possible. And I think that does tie into obviously what we do. And the biggest thing, they just have to stay 5 steps ahead of their competition, because there's a lot of it. Which also includes, say, our brand. I mean, you know, I always say, yes, most real estate companies, we do pretty much offer the same opportunity, but, you know, there has to be a USP for obviously that brand. What would you say is our key USP that you then obviously highlight to our potential recruits?
Honestly, the main one, there's a lot of stuff that I can go through.
Of course.
Anorak is massive. There's lots of different channel partners. That entire side of things is great. But when you're looking to make a move to a new country, most people relocate for this type of role, and maybe a new industry, and it's commission based. So you've got to back yourself with that. You don't really, you care, like, oh great, I'm going to work for like a big company and it's got financial backing and it's got all of this stuff. You care about when you walk in, are you actually going to have support? Like, what's the culture like? What's the environment like? That's 100% Anorak's like USP. In Dubai, again, and you can do this like on a very quick Google search and have a look through companies like employee reviews. We don't have the best as real estate and in industry. For us, and again, there's obviously other really good agencies out there as well, which we always like to work on a collaborative front from a business side as well. So that's always just a positive. But it's very easy for me to sit there and say to somebody, look, if you can tick those boxes and you know you're going to work hard, we will give you the platform and all of the kind of flexibility and the right environment to just take hold of it and actually get on. Instead of like kind of looking down, or, you know, as much as it's got a lot of like negativity around it, but like genuinely like micromanaging and things obviously just doesn't happen here. It is literally about providing that support, and then you being able to be comfortable enough and in the right environment to say, hey, I need help with this, and it's very tailored. So I always say that, and I always give people like a pan of the office when I do, because I'm like, it's a perfect example of the layout. You know, everybody sits wherever they want. You can collaborate with marketing. There's so much support. Like our marketers to broker ratio is huge compared to any other company.
Collaborative would be a really good word for us, really. I mean, because again, especially with what I do, I have to collaborate with so many different industries, different people. That's a brilliant word to put. I mean, I think another thing I'll touch on as well is what's the danger zone with Dubai real estate is recruiters themselves. So there's a lot of recruiters out there which will be working at a company. They'll be there for 2-3 months telling you how amazing that company is. And then, you know, a month later, they're in another one going, oh, come and work here. This is an amazing company. And I'm like, please do your research, because if you don't do your research, then, you know, you're basically listening to the lies of a lot of recruiters out there. And, you know, again, I was part of obviously bringing you on board, and to actually bring you on board was hard because you were very settled, really happy. You know, you'd obviously had many successes with obviously your previous role. And I think that's really important as well is, you know, again, anyone who's obviously starting a real estate company or, you know, like I say, coming over here, really look at the recruiter as well, like what's the work history basically, because it's so important, and it is almost a slight negative of the industry. And I can proudly say, you know, you're a great asset to obviously the team. Like you have the power to create the culture in the office, which, you know, you're a big, huge part to play, which, you know, I love. In terms of obviously, let's go back to kind of like the myths of obviously this role. There's a lot of myths. I think everyone thinks we all drive around in Lamborghinis, which isn't always the case. I don't actually drive yet myself. I'm waiting for the self-drive cars. I'm ahead of the game. That's all that matters. But, you know, what would you say are the myths that you kind of commonly come across now in an interview? What would be, you know, the most obvious ones?
It's actually a really tough one, because I think that when people apply in for this type of role, or when they're approached about this type of role, they see Dubai as like one thing, which is like glamorous, like pavements are lined, like it's gold everywhere. You come out here and you're just going to make money, and it's going to be so easy because, you know, for example, like the UK just sucks. Everybody, it's so easy to be like, this is so bad and this is so good, and the grass is always greener. But I think when they actually get on the call, I always like debunk that. I'm always talking about like cost of living. I'm always talking about it is hard work to get there. It's not a case of the work itself is like really complicated. It's not complicated. Not to put that in a bad way. It's just hard work. It's like running a marathon. Anybody can run, but not everybody can run 40 kilometers straight. I certainly can. But you know what I mean with that.
No, of course.
But no, in terms of kind of the myths, I would say most people know before they end up speaking with someone. And again, it's easy to kind of put that lifestyle out there and to be like, yeah, come out, you're going to smash it, you're going to make these record-breaking deals, which is, again, easy for me to say because we've got people doing record-breaking deals, but it takes time and it takes patience and it takes perseverance typically to get to that stage unless you just kind of get really, really lucky. So I think that's something people need to be aware of. You need to be able to support yourself out here. You know, a lot of people do come out and they want to make it, but they don't actually realise what it takes and if it's worth it. That's just the reality of it. When it's worth it, you make it happen.
Another thing I'll talk about, because obviously we were talking about it before, obviously this podcast, is obviously I oversee the private wealth team, which obviously is very established associate director level. What would you be looking for now for an associate director? Because obviously this is, say, somebody who's got the experience, not brand new to the market, they've got the deals behind them. What is it that we kind of like look for there? Because again, I always need extra associate directors for that team.
So, no, I mean, number one, and this is more because it's just an easy box tick, but it's like the initial outreach that I would do to someone at that level is obviously the sales that they've done. That's just how you can identify somebody who's operating at that level. It doesn't mean that they belong there. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it doesn't mean that they belong at associate director level, because you need to be able to kind of represent the company and the brand, and also be, in some ways, without even necessarily being a team leader, but being a leader to people and being able to show people and give that advice that's actually going to help maybe brokers that are like 5, 6, 7 years your junior, like what they're doing, what they need to do to get there, like reassuring. At the end of the day, everything is mindset. When you've got someone at associate director level who's coming in and doesn't really want to interact with the people that are just starting out because they're not going to make it, or whatever it is that they've got this kind of idea on, you don't really want to have that title, because it's not just about you being promoted through the ranks. You actually get to a stage where the reason that you're there is because you represent the company, and a company isn't anything.
Very much so,
people that are in it.
And I think especially with our private wealth team, I mean, again, the level of some of the partnerships obviously we have is outstanding. It really is. And I feel if they don't have almost a very professional, even corporate mindset when it comes to approaching these deals, again, they probably wouldn't be a fit for our private wealth team. You know, there's again a lot of agencies out there that have a private wealth team, but they don't have access to the level of partnerships that we have. So I think the other thing again we were discussing was there's almost like that beginner's gambler's look. You know, a new broker can come in, and this is what is amazing about this career. You can out earn your boss in your first deal. You could do a 200 mil deal, you know, have a nice kind of juicy 5% commission or something crazy. And, you know, all of a sudden you've got a lot of money obviously in your pockets. But this is where, again, I think the foot needs to then go down onto the gas and really obviously then push into their careers, because we see a lot of this going on in the industry. They then go spend happy, and they forget that they need to focus on the deal. They need to focus on their pipeline. There's so many different aspects to sales, which it can be overlooked. So obviously, with associate directors, it comes down to like volume of sales, how much experience they have, and everything else. What would you say would be the main tips for, let's go, tips for people who are already over here in Dubai, and then also tips for people who are considering the move, whether UK, India, Australia, wherever they're coming from? How would you kind of differentiate them and advise them?
It's a good question, and it links back to something that you were speaking about earlier when it comes to like recruiters jumping around. Do your research. Pick the right company. I get it. You don't always know until you go in, but that's why, especially local recruitment, anytime someone is here, I'm like, please just come into the office. Because it is my job to sell you the company. Like if I think you're good, it's my job to sell you the company. I'm not the type of person that is just going to lie and say so. I'll just emphasize the benefits.
Of course.
So I will literally sit there and be like, we have such a great environment. Come in and see it. So go in, if you're local, visit the companies, talk to the people that are there. Like, it's not all sunshine and roses. Like, you'll go out there, someone can be having a difficult day. Somebody's just been told no 50 times on the phone. Like, it's not a case of never having tough times. It's a case of, but the company still supports me through it, and they give me all of these kind of additional tools and benefits that you just don't get somewhere else. And they also respect me, which should be bare minimum, but unfortunately, I've spoken to a lot of people where it just isn't for a lot of other companies. Again, not all of them, but it's just a reality. So I'd say local, you want to go in, you want to visit. Biggest tip. I think everybody kind of already knows that, but you get a gut feeling when you go somewhere. And you can kind of listen
and
to
probably
that.
just don't listen to the rumours, because there's so many rumours, you know, that you'll get maybe from an ex-colleague or something like that along those lines. It's very important to make that decision yourself, because I always say what suits me isn't necessarily going to suit you. And I think that's very, very important. And what about those international potential recruits?
I think there's a lot of people that want to come to Dubai. And there's two types of people that I will speak to. And I'm very candid.
Okay.
You know that. And we've already said it, but I'm very candid on an interview, and I will say, look, there's some people who want to do this because they want to build a career with it and they really see the potential. And there's some people that want to do this because they want to get to Dubai. There's two types of people. If you're doing it just to get to Dubai, don't bother.
Because it's too painful.
It is really tough, and you're not going to come in and you're not going to strike gold, because you're not going to put any work in to get lucky enough to be able to do that 200 mil case in your first year. Like, you have to, it doesn't have to be real estate. I love real estate. I love houses. I love villas. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It does have to be, okay, I really see the potential here. Like, I'm taking a calculated risk on this commission-based role. I'm putting my savings into it and investing in myself as an entrepreneur almost. It's like a midway point, like you'd said. And I'm going to just go full steam ahead for 6 to 12 months. And I can do that. If you are like doubting it, hold off. Just hold off. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but just hold off until you're like, no, okay, yes, it's the right time. Because if you get here, you are going to face hurdles. And if you're going to just fall the second that you do.
Well, just moving to a new country in general, I mean, it's a challenge. Again, not many people know this and some do, but obviously I experienced living in the US, in New York, and it did take me almost a month, 2 months to get out of tourism mindset. Obviously I've been here 12 years, and again, it's really until I kind of fully settled here and stayed here full time, because again, many know I was a flight attendant before, I was back and forth. So again, it slightly felt like tourism, because you just enjoyed it for the short amount. I think it's very important to kind of give it time as well, because or move over here and experience it, get the holiday mode out of your system. Because I think another thing I'll touch on is there can be the spending of brokers. Imagine you've gone through a drought of maybe 2-3 months of not being paid. Some deals take up to 6 months, 9 months to be paid, and all of a sudden this big, 6 figures hits their bank account. And we see it, I've definitely saw it in a few of the previous other companies, veneers, brand new suits, new cars, and then a month or two later, they're like asking for an advance because they haven't focused on their pipeline. And, there really is, you have to have an incredible, resilient mindset to obviously achieve success. And especially, I'd say, as years are going on, you have to be far more resilient, because the competition's getting so much higher. Because, yes, we've obviously got investors moving over here, we've got huge wealth migration coming in, but again, normal people are flying in because they want to, like you say, have a slice of Dubai. What would be kind of your leaving advice now for obviously anyone who's obviously shifting in? What would be kind of your leaving line on obviously this podcast?
If you feel like Dubai is for you, and if you feel like you're the type of person that's always not being suited fully to not corporate, but salaried life where you work until you're 65 and then you retire and then you live on a pension. If you're always a bit more okay, I've got this growth entrepreneurial mindset, don't quite know what I want to do. And I really feel drawn to this place. Just do it. It's not going to be easy. You will face a lot more challenges than you think, and you won't face things that you thought you would. But it's worth it. You just have to go at it for long enough.
And my last question, why was it that made you move? What was your kind of why to come over here?
Honestly, the main one.
Sunshine.
You know me,
Yeah.
I love the sun.
That helps.
It makes a
does
huge
help.
difference. The UK is so great, and then also it's tax free.
Yeah.
You know, you can't beat that.
You can't, no. You know, when the taxman's taken out up to 40% in some countries.
It's painful, yeah. But I know that it's not what keeps me here. It's still massive for me. But actually, I genuinely say, besides things like the business opportunities, which are just so obvious, and like not just even in terms of business, but personally and the people that you're around, genuinely the safety.
Yeah.
You don't realise how that feels until you live somewhere where you can...
I touch on it so much. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I went back to the UK for Christmas, you know, you just go somewhere random like a supermarket, and you can't say leave your bag on the trolley and walk into the next aisle to go and get whatever you're getting, because your bag ain't going to be there when you come back. And it's eye-opening. I honestly don't genuinely believe I'll never move back. So I was so sorry, Dad, after that.
I was going to say, yeah, sorry, Mum. My mum always like breaks her heart a little bit whenever I tell her that.
But no, I think, safety is a huge aspect. And like you say, you've touched on it a lot, it's just opportunity.
Yeah.
It really is like the land for, you know, pushing forwards and just following your dreams, really. Well, thank you anyway for obviously joining us. Obviously, if anybody is interested in, you know, finding out more about Anorak itself, and or obviously wants to obviously join our team, please reach out to Jodie. Obviously, we'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you, and we will look forward to obviously getting you on our team. Thank you. Thanks.